Well, very good morning to all of you. Thanks for tuning back in. This is our day four, our fourth video of this series on practical use of the soil mod modification for Farming Simulator 15. As you can see, today is Sunday. It represents day 14 in our span of time here on the Graceland map. I've been farming with the soil mod modification for um, probably about 7 days or so. I started Graceland without the soil mod, and then I added it um, some time into already the gameplay. So I did not restart. But just to sort of recap where we are today before we take a look at our field, we've got today is going to be a warm day. We're going to be 2 degrees above that magic temperature of 22 degrees Celsius. So it is going to be a rather warm day, which will sort of tie into, I believe, what our game plan is going to be for today. So if you follow baseball, we are rounding third and heading in for home. We're almost done with this endeavor. Harvest is just a day away, and hopefully we will reap all the benefits of what we have sown and all the hard work that we've put in to this particular field number 2, which is our wheat field. So I'll just go ahead and click OK, and that'll take us out to our field. It's a lovely Sunday morning, just before 7 a.m. The sun is rising. Gorgeous, gorgeous sunrise here on our Graceland map. Now, let's just take a look at very quickly our soil conditions. So in the lower right hand corner, you will see that our pH is exactly where it was yesterday at 6.4. It is slightly acidic, but that's okay. The drop off as far as losing yield due to a low or a high pH is relatively within a level that, 6.8 obviously is your perfect score. That's 100% yield as far as pH is concerned, but 90% is at 6.2. So we're somewhere between 90% and 100%, probably about 92, 94% yield, which in my book is okay. It's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be worth the effort um, of applying lime, and I'm not sure if you would actually apply lime at this particular point with crops already planted. I'm really not sure about that. I'm not a real farmer in real life. I just play this game much like everyone else does, to relax and learn a little bit and have fun. So if you know for sure one way or the other whether you would apply lime to a field that already has a growing crop in it, potentially um, a Farm Sim 15 game day away from harvest, let me know. But I'm thinking that at this particular point in time, regardless of what the answer is, yes or no, I'm not really sure if it's worth our effort to do that. So our soil moisture is at 57%. Now you might remember yesterday we were setting at 43%. We did apply 1 dose of PK liquid. Okay, so that gave us the benefit of 14% moisture in the application of that. Now it did rain yesterday. It rained. Um, maybe a rain hell mix. I'm not real sure what it was. I know that it was enough to wash the equipment that was set outside. I was in the middle of harvesting canola at the time and ended up having to suspend the harvest operations because obviously, as you can't harvest in the rain. Some activities you can't do when it's raining. So, but the key thing is that we did not get the added benefit. So we only got the 14% of the PK liquid. We didn't get on top of that 14% um, with the rain or whatever that was. So let's get out of this guy's way because he is moving. So our next levels, our nutrients, we're at 7 and 6. That's where we were yesterday as well. Now, the one thing to understand or to think about in relation to how crops use nutrients as they grow is they will use nutrients at various stages. So for example, at all stages of growth, crops will use the N nutrient at all stages of growth. But PK is only used at stage 3 and at stage 5, which would be our potato crop, I believe. So we're not expecting to use any additional PK. Our N should drop if I understand the matrix correctly. Our N should drop. Now the other thing to understand is also with regards to moisture absorption. Um, Most crops only use moisture at the second stage and the third stage and the fifth stage. Of course, weeds use moisture throughout the life cycle, but we don't have any weed infestation, thankfully. But wheat is the different crop. Wheat uses moisture all through every stage of its growing life. So that's why I have made the decision, even though we are setting at that magic number of 57% moisture, which gives us the 100% yield, I went ahead because today is going to be a warm day. It's going to be above 22 degrees Celsius, 24 to be exact is what the forecast is calling for. So I went ahead and um, am applying water, just simply spraying water onto the field. We've got roughly 24 hours before, or a game day before we harvest this field. And what I'm thinking is that with wheat drawing moisture through all of its growth cycles, including the growth cycle today, this last stage of growth, that our soil moisture, if I understand the matrix correctly and everything, our soil moisture should be 57% tomorrow. We're not expecting rain. We're not expecting to do anything else to this crop other than spray water on it. So at the time that it recalculates and then the growth cycle completes and we harvest tomorrow, I'm expecting that number to be 57%. We'll see. Our last nutrient level just to talk about is PK. Um, Let me just verify. We should not see a PK drop from 6 to 5 because it's in the stage of growth where it's not going to use PK. Again, if I understand the matrix correctly, I'm not an expert on the Soilmod. I'm a user who has been using it for maybe roughly seven game days or so, 7 long game days, I would say. But I'm not an expert on this. I'm figuring this out just probably just like you are. So I believe hopefully I made that clear even in day one that I'm not an expert on this, um, but I am learning and I'm trying to learn and I'm trying to be add more realism into my farming endeavors. Um, but one thing that I was thinking about as I was getting ready to start my day, my real day here, is that soil mod is not for everyone. Um, as I believe I have demonstrated through the course of these videos, and this video is now video number 4, so a harvest will be the video number 5, is that the soil mod requires, under most circumstances, requires you to do something each and every day, each and every life cycle day. Now, I believe we talked about in the first video or maybe the second one that you can modify the growth cycle, the number of growth cycles, and you can, right now it's set for one game day equals one growth cycle. So essentially, I can plant wheat and basically on the 5th day harvest it after four growth cycles. There are some people that play with that set for 2, which would basically be 2 Farming Simulator 15 game days as one growth cycle. There are others that crank that number on out to 3, 4, 5, or even more. Interestingly enough, I was reading a blog post I believe, over on FSUK forums last week, and a person was describing the fact that he has his set for very high number in the 20s or maybe even 30, which essentially almost takes him an entire season, which would be more realistic, obviously, because in the vanilla game you can sow one day and harvest the next. As far as game days are concerned, so obviously you can do a lot of planting and a lot of harvesting in the period of a very short period of time, where we know that it takes our real world farmers much longer to do that. So I guess it's whatever you are wanting to accomplish out of your gameplay is what you will ultimately do here. But as I said, it's not for everyone. It does require extra work. If you're the type of person that maybe I was before I started playing with the soil mod, you would plant a field, fertilize that field, and you would maybe harvest it the next day if it was ready. But if you had plant weathering turned off, if you wanted to spend an entire day, a game day, doing forestry or tending to your animals or whatever, you certainly could do that. You had that luxury of doing that. I'm finding myself at just four fields, and I'm thinking about adding a fifth. But then again, I'm almost talking myself out of adding a fifth field. It just sort of depends, just because that it does not allow me a lot of extra time. I feel like that, almost every day I'm harvesting a crop. Um, and I would like to maybe put a little bit more buffer into that. So maybe changing that number to two is in my best interest. I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, the last thing I wanted to talk about as far as our matrix is concerned is weed prevention. So we're good for one more day, which should take us through to tomorrow to harvest and not expect any problems. So let me just slide our chart over here. This is what we've been keeping track of on a daily basis. And again, if you visit the blog site, I'll mention the blog article where you can access this link. This is just a Google Doc that you can download, print, or whatever, and you're free to modify this in any way that you want to do, however you want it to suit your needs. You're okay with doing that. So we are in day 4. I've recorded our numbers: 6.4 pH, 57% moisture, 7 and 6 for our nutrients, and we're one day with weed prevention, and we did apply water. So if you remember from the very first video, where we actually walked up to the field for the very first time and used that spreadsheet tool to analyze all of our circumstances and everything. We had recorded these numbers: 7.1, 57%, 5, and 4, with no weed prevention. That spreadsheet told us that we would need to do a few things: add PK, add a double dose of C herbicide, water, and that would give us the following numbers: 6.5, 57% moisture, 6, and 5. So we're very close to those numbers, very close to those numbers. If Again, if I understand how everything works, even though we're applying moisture, which will essentially increase our moisture level, we should bring that back down to 57 again. So it's really, and also, as we talked about in the course of the last couple of videos, the weather is not 100%. It's not 100%. So the only thing that was really accurate as far as the forecast over the span of our week here has been the fact that it did forecast some level of moisture through hail or rain, or a combination of both, and we did get that yesterday for about 2.5 hours actually. um, so um, so there. Anyway, I'm going to end the video now, and we'll return the next game day, which will be our harvest day. And of course, we will take a look at what those numbers are before we harvest. We will record the amount of wheat that we currently have in storage. We do have some. And then how much we have after our harvest, which will give us our total harvest number. And I've got that to compare to a previous harvest of wheat. So I'll sort of know whether we did good on this harvest or maybe did poorly on this harvest. But I think if we end up anywhere with these numbers, we're not obviously we're not going to have 100% yield, but that's true in the real world as well. And that's why the soil mod, the soil mod does a lot of things, but then again, it still doesn't do a lot of other things. For example, it really doesn't talk about um, pesticide type situations. It doesn't, yesterday the weather the weather was hell, or it was very hard rain. The wind was blowing. I mean, it was a pretty gnarly day as far as Farming Simulator 15 can throw at you. And I would expect that in the real world, with that amount of hail that was coming down, the wind was blowing, all that kind of stuff, that there would be some loss, some crop loss due to those conditions. So um, even if we come in at 90% or even at 85% um, on the harvest, that is still probably very close to real life numbers, because again, we could remove soil mod and we could just do this. We could just do this with the vanilla engine of the game and expect 100% harvest every single time. But what fun is that? What? There's no calculation. There's apply your seed, apply your fertilizer, and harvest it and get 100%, and then go sell it to the highest bidder. So anyway, thank you for tuning in for yet another video on the soil mod, practical use of the soil mod for Farming Simulator 15. I'm hoping you've learned something from these, and I will return again with the final video of this series, which will be our harvest. That will be the next game day 15. Thanks for watching, and I will speak to you very soon.